Alright guys, so thank you for joining Word of the Day Wednesdays. My name is Nicole D. Miller, author of Stories for the Urban Soul. I'm really proud of myself that I remembered to bring a copy of my book upstairs this time. The last couple of weeks I kept forgetting and you guys had no visual for my book. But just to recap, so Word of the Day Wednesdays is basically something I started where I just share revelations, tidbits, insights that I have throughout the week, and a lot of it pertains to my blog. So today I'm going to piggyback off of my blog. The name of the blog post that was released is Girl on Crutches Coming Through. Really cute title. And the website for my blog is betterthanwine.net. So again, I'm Nicole D. Miller, author of Stories for the Urban Soul, which is a compilation of short stories, short novels, which are called novellas, and some poetry, depicting Black characters dealing with everyday life issues such as heartbreak, social injustices, parenting, college life, friendships, everything that's relatable, but has a spiritual undertone. So encouraging, hopeful, loving, and it really infuses Black culture with spirituality. So a lot of my writing will be doing that. You're going to see a couple of the short stories that are in here are related. The first two, Lisa and Joe's story. And those characters are going to pop back up in future novels. So I'm in the process of getting my very first novel edited. And hopefully it'll be published next year. So stay on the lookout for that. And then once that's published, I'll be releasing other novels. I just started another novel. So be on the lookout. I do a monthly newsletter where you can keep abreast on future projects, other, writing projects that I have going on, and events. Currently, and we're going to get into this, I am not doing a lot of events because I'm recovering from an injury. So a lot of what you'll see me doing is online. Hey. Sorry, my cat. So let's get into this. So the name of this blog is Girl on Crutches Coming Through. And I actually don't normally do this, but I feel inspired to read the blog. Honestly, you guys, I was encouraged by my own posts and impressed by my own writing. And that doesn't happen a lot, but I was like, man, this is really good. So I think I'm going to read the blog post and then we can dialogue. I'm on week 8 of my healing journey with this ankle. But as you guys know, I truly just started doing what I needed to do. I just went to the doctor's a little over 2 weeks ago where I found out my foot was actually broken and then ordered a boot off Amazon. The next week, my good friend came over with crutches and I've been hobbling around ever since. Now, while clearly God has been providing and my peeps have totally come through with helping me, I definitely hit some bumps in the road, literally. One said bump was when I went down to the Red Cross to give blood. I've never actually given blood before, guys, and do not even know my own blood type. So when I met a woman a few weeks ago who shared the deficit we have in the Black community with people giving blood, I jumped at the chance. So even though I'm hobbling around and it takes me forever to get ready and there is so much more effort to do anything these days, and I'm not driving, so I got to pencil in ordering a Lyft and then finagling my way into the vehicle. Well, I did it. Because I did the exact same thing days before to get my nails and eyebrows done, so surely giving blood is much more important, right? So I get there after having a very encouraging spiritual conversation with my Lyft driver, who used to have to wear a boot herself, but healed and is fine now. And I hobble my way into the hospital entrance where the lady at the desk compliments me, though all I can think is, thanks, but I'm in a war zone on these crutches and running late to this appointment, and can someone please point me in the direction of the Red Cross? But of course, I say none of this. Instead, I smile and thank her and hobble over to the receptionist, who tells me I gotta make it across the lobby, then go downstairs on the elevator, then turn right. So I size up the football field-sized cafeteria lobby she is directing me to, but it's not really that big, it just feels that way on my crutches, and set my mind on my destination. Now, this is probably where I should mention that at this point, I'm actually having issues with my left good ankle. since it is bearing so much more weight than normal. And since I've actually sprained that ankle twice before, it is now sore and uncomfortable. But it's all I've got, so I ignore the pain. I make it across like I'm the Israelites following Moses through the parting of the Red Sea, only to be confused once I'm out of the elevator as to where exactly the entrance is. A woman in a mask muffles that it's where she just came from while pointing behind her, and after several miscommunications between her mask and my mask, I head inside, cross the security guard who looks at me compassionately as I hobble, then finally approach the people in white coats who work for Red Cross. I stand, or hunch, however you want to view it, in victory, like a runner who just finished their very first 5K, only to have the white coats tell me that we can't take your blood since you're injured. What now? What was that? Maybe I'm not hearing correctly. Maybe the work I've put into getting dressed and getting a ride and navigating the hospital has left me so depleted that now I am hearing things. But no, I am not losing my hearing on top of my current condition. The people in the white coats repeat themselves, explaining that because I'm injured and because my body actually needs the red blood cells I would be donating to repair itself, they won't take my blood. Ah, makes perfect sense. Too bad I didn't know that before. The talking coats offer me a seat and a bottle of water, but I decline both because I'm done. Emotionally, mentally, physically, I'm exhausted and I just need to use all of my energy to turn around, make it back up the elevator, across the football field-sized cafeteria, past the receptionist, past the complimentary lady checking for COVID who thought I was cute, even with my mask on, and even while I'm on crutches, through the double doors of the entrance and outside where I plop into the nearest wheelchair available. I skipped the part where I cried, you guys. I cried and sent a text to my community to pray because I knew in that moment I could not do this alone. The good news is the prayers were effective and were answered in the form of a young man named Maurice. Maurice was my Lyft driver and truly a blessing. He posed just one question after helping me into his very clean and smelling good Toyota, and it was over for me. So, how are you doing? He asked. The floodgates broke. I wished I could have been the cordial, lighthearted individual I normally am with perfect strangers, but Maurice caught me at a rough time, y'all. I bawled while telling Maurice about my failed efforts that day and how I was horribly embarrassed that I was crying to a perfect stranger. And did I mention this is definitely not normal behavior for me? But Maurice smiled and nodded and was very empathetic and understanding. And somehow the conversation evolved to topics of healing and spirituality and growth. You see, Maurice too was a believer and he had been through some things. He understood all too well the need to cry to a perfect stranger in the back of their Toyota on a beautiful fall day. But the thing is, Maurice and I were not strangers. We knew each other by the Spirit. And God knew exactly who I needed to speak with that day and what I needed to carry me forward on the remaining path of healing. By the time I left Maurice, I was encouraging him and laughing with joy. We were both smiling, and God had did a work in both of us. That is the power of the Holy Spirit, and that is what happens when I realize I cannot depend upon myself. So, you guys, that day was so brutal for me for a variety of reasons. It's just been a journey not having both of my limbs to walk on. And I have to say, I'm a very independent person. I talked about this last week, just getting that revelation of my own independency. And I think part of it is because I have to be independent. One of my friends pointed that out when we were talking the other day. It's like I have to be independent, but what I'm learning is I don't always have to be independent, and just learning to navigate when am I supposed to be independent and when am I not. So even in discussing the situation with another friend today, she was like, girl, I would have just took one of those wheelchairs and wheeled myself around to get to where I needed to go. And I kept looking at the wheelchairs, but in my mind, they were for people who were worse off than me. Because what I said to her was, well, I just thought those were people that couldn't walk for real. And she's like, girl, that's you. Like, you can't walk. But I think because I'm like, but I got one semi-good leg still. It's like my mindset is, but I'm not necessarily crippled. Like, I still got something I can use, you know? It's insane. So I feel like I'm in a space where I'm becoming more aware of this need to be self-reliant, as I discussed last week, and just the lengths that I will go when I'm functioning that way. And sometimes it's just hard to see because I've been functioning that way for so long, and because sometimes I do have to push through, like living alone, or, you know, not having people here all the time, because I do have a lot of help and people have been in and out. But, you know, sometimes it's just like I do have to push through and I do have to do that. But I can totally see how even just my mindset has been making things more difficult. And I talked about this before. It's just like, sometimes you get in your own way. Sometimes you get in your own way of your healing. Sometimes you get in your own way of that next level that you're trying to go to. And so my prayer lately has been, Lord, show me how I'm hindering myself. Show me how I'm getting in my own way as to the future that I'm called to. Show me those mindsets that are at work that are stunting me, stunting my growth, stunting my healing, stunting me getting to the next level. And so we all go through those hard days. We all go through those emotional, you spin out of the control. Maybe you're not crying to a stranger, but you're crying to somebody, you know. Like, I remember when I did get off the elevator, I saw a chair in the corner, and I didn't put this in the blog, but I saw a chair in the corner, and I just was like, Nicole, go sit down, and it's okay to cry. And I just gave myself that freedom. And getting those emotions out was so good, and connecting with Maurice, the Lyft driver, was so good because he was so affirming, and he was just like, we need to be transparent. We need to connect more in our culture. You know, a lot of times people ask you how you're doing, and it's not for you to really tell them. Like, it's a social etiquette situation in our culture, you know. It's just kind of like to be polite. And you make small talk, and you talk about the weather, and you talk about COVID or anything that's just not like that, you know, intense, even though COVID is intense, but, you know, something a little bit more lighter than, like, I'm just really discouraged right now because I just jumped through all these hoops to do something nice, and it totally blew up in my face, you know. So, but it opens the door for deeper connections, and we're all human, and we all need those connections. As I'm learning, as I mentioned before, people have been in and out, really serving me during this time. I've gotten to see how literally God's body has been my hands and feet. And it's been a very unique position for me to be in. I don't think I've ever been in this position before in my life. And it's been humbling. And I just recognize, like, this is the purpose. This is the purpose of having community. This is the purpose of having a tribe. This is the purpose of being connected, because we need each other. Humanity needs each other. So that's my little tidbit. I hope you guys enjoyed the blog. You can read more at betterthanwhy.net. You can visit my website to learn more about me and my books, NicoleDMiller.com. I have 2 other books out. The first one is How to Overcome Heartbreak, Recovering from Misguided Love, where I share my story of healing from heartbreak and will help me to help others in similar situations. And the sequel is How to Overcome Heartbreak, Stories That Heal. That is more for me, but it's also me interviewing other people. So 7 other women and 4 other men, and them sharing their stories. So if you can't relate to me, you can relate to someone in that book. All right, so stay tuned for the next Word of the Day Wednesdays here, IGT Live at 6 p.m.